them all together and built this fiberglass sports car with it. And he was totally impressed. And he drove around Los Angeles in his car. And then these two chaps at that point were really on the bones of their backside. And he said he'll buy their whole operation. And that's how Tesla came about. And the modern Tesla is not different to the original idea, you know.
Brilliant. Amazing. Your son, Elon, is known for his work ethic, you know, constant pushing, always trying to, you know, change opportunities, you know, really change, you know, really try and make good for the world. Did you notice these traits when he was when he was young, or did they develop later on in his life?
No, I noticed them when he was young. When he was very young, both the boys, they grew up with me, and I raised them. They were with me throughout their school career. Their interest in life, I'm almost like the generation I was, you know, after Sputnik and, you know, the first man in space and satellites and all that sort of stuff. We were all sort of, you know, like sort of full of it for the future. We just wanted to know where it's going to go, what can we do as people, what are, you know, my sons were no different, and they were very well disposed to everyone. You know, in the apartheid South Africa, they brought all their friends of all races back to the home where we lived, the three of us. And I remember when Elon was 14, I came back from a trip to Germany. As it happened, I was a consulting engineer, and he presented me with a cassette. And he said to me, "Dad, you've got to listen to this. You've got to listen to this." He was only about 14 then. And I played it. It was Louis Armstrong's tape, "What a Wonderful World." You know, and I can still see him sitting there, you know, "What do you think? You know, isn't that amazing?" You know, like this lyrics of the song, when you say hello to somebody, you're really saying, "I love you," you know. I mean, that's quite interesting, you know.
Absolutely, Mr. Musk, absolutely. What do you consider Elon's most significant contribution to the world of technology and innovation as a father?
I would say the extent to which he's used computers, you know, for all these different things. You know, the extent to which he is using the capabilities of computers. That was his big thing as a young child. I bought him the first IBM XDA, the first PC that was ever made. I bought him that in 1982. He was 11 years old. And I was asked to buy it for him by professors from England who'd come out and displayed and demonstrated these computers. And they said, this boy has to have one. So his real contribution is utilizing computers to the extent that they can run motor cars, launch rockets, put chips in people's brains, and so on. You know, that's, I would say, his real big contribution to everything. You know,
and of course, AI, you know, open AI is really developing. You know, if you don't, you know, as journalists, as media, as politicians, in technology, in all different aspects, AI is very useful. What's your opinion about AI and open AI?
Well, it's great. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Look, you know, I'm an engineer. A pop-up toaster is actually AI. You know, I mean, you know, so if you start with that kind of thing. So what Elon has been warning against is that computers are racing so far ahead of us that we have to be careful we don't, you know, tell a computer that sends us spam to say to the computer, "Please do not send me spam," you know, in a way that you might say, "Punish the people who are sending me spam." And the computer takes you literally, you know, and thinks you must actually destroy those people. So at the end of the day, you know, he's quite right about controlling AI. But, you know, Elon's approach is that we need to couple the best computers we can, couple them to the human brain, so that we are sort of doing that with computers, you know, through our five senses. I mean, his idea is you actually put it onto your brain. And, so, you know, I forget what your actual question was, but AI is very, very big to him. Very, very big.
Hmm. But do you not think, in your perspective, talking about AI is a great thing, but also at the same time, hard work also goes out the window, because at the same
No,
time,
no.
if you, I mean, if I want to write a press release or an article, I don't personally use AI for journalism, but I know that other journalists that may decide to use AI for that. Do you not think AI makes it easier, or goes around the gap a bit, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, yes. I mean, look. Let's put it this way. Based on what you've just said, one could actually say that books should never have been written, because books make it easy for somebody who's going to come along and make a report or do a newspaper report or something to go and look in the books what somebody else has said. No. So in that sense, books should never have been written. No. There will always be a question of ethics involved. So, there will be some people who will try to pass off AI as their own work, and there will be, most of the people will not be doing that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You are probably, the closest person I'll probably ever get to meet, to Elon Musk, your son, innovator, someone who's really changed, space travel, et cetera, et cetera. Where do you see Elon, your son, in the next 5 to 10 years, and where do you see our world going? Because it would be great to know from your visionary and your perspective, actually knowing Elon, being your son, etc.
Okay, you raised an interesting thing. Look, at the moment we are using, when you talk about space travel and so on, we're trying to use rockets to the nth degree. In other words, the way they used to try and build locomotives 100 years ago to try and go 120 miles an hour, or steam locomotives, and, trying to push old technology of the 19th century and early 20th century as far as it could go, until they realized, wait a minute, steam engines are not the answer for that kind of thing. And we moved on. So right now, we're still using rockets to try and get into space. But in reality, interplanetary travel with rockets is not the answer. You can't. The idea of putting people into a pod and expecting them to spend 18 months in a pod across space to go and land on Mars, this is not real. So at the moment, we can't do much else. But what we are doing now, we're starting an institute of learning, a technical institute. We've been working on it for months now, and it's relatively new news. This will be the institute. We have been suggested that we should call it the Musk Institute, but it will be like your Royal Institute and like the Academy of Sciences in Paris. And the idea will be to study two real main directions. The main direction will be space-time travel and fusion. So unless we can control or understand space-time travel and fusion, we won't be able to experience the vision that everyone, you, me, and everyone has of what the future is like. We go to films and we see TV series and films which show, space vehicles just going up off the Earth and floating around in the air and all that sort of stuff. And we sort of assume, but to do that, we would have to be able to control gravity. And that's our next step. And so the new institute will be studying that, the solution to space-time, which in fact includes gravity. It's probably easier for someone to understand it when we say gravity than space-time travel. But with space-time travel, it would be possible to, in fact, go from a place like Earth to Mars by adjusting the space-time between Mars and Earth in such a way that we simply step into the space-time at Earth, and then, depending on how long it takes us to adjust the space-time, step out on Mars 3 hours later. And it's very difficult to understand, but if you look at a few comic books,
I understand. Yeah, no, brilliant. I understand perfectly, Mr. Musk. I also think, from my perspective, me being a human, etc., regardless what we do in my job wise, I'm also quite worried, because yes, your son is a great innovator. Yes, you are the backbone to Elon, etc., and SpaceX and Tesla, etc. But I'm also concerned the fact that jobs for humans may not be there in a period of time. And I think that's what people are nervous about or maybe anxious about. And I think maybe AI is a great thing, as I said before, but I'm hoping, well, in your opinion, do you think what people's worries about lack of human jobs are going to do you think that's going to be affected, etc.?
Jobs, do you mean?
Yeah, like jobs, like for jobs for humans. Because if you go, for instance, Uber, there's self drives now. There's the taxi drivers. You don't have to. There doesn't have to be a human to actually drive the taxi
Well,
anymore.
obviously I hear what you're saying, but the same thing could be said. The same thing could be said year by year over the last 150 years. If we do away with horses, what's going to happen to all the hay makers? What's going to happen to all the farriers? What's going to happen to all the carriage makers? So, as you move on to new things, new jobs become necessary. And in fact, human ability is then moved to more creative work, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So it will improve. It's not to say that jobs will be lost. There will be new jobs. There will be new kind of things that are needed. And people's, these two hands that people have can be put to more, the things that everything you see around you, right? Everything you see around you is built with these two hands, whether 100%. You believe it or not.
100%.
And those two hands will now be available for different things, for more, I would say more important things, but new things. And Absolutely. So you don't have to worry about that at all. At all.
Brilliant.
At all.
Brilliant. Now, going into your family's business in politics, Elon is now, he's now going to be joining the Trump administration. Going to be, joining Donald Trump, etc. What's your opinion about that, sir? What do you hope that Elon can achieve from the situation, or also the world can achieve?
Well, it's very, very good that he's doing this. Most of his life, he couldn't do that because he's too busy working. But once you reach a certain point, in doing your sort of technical or whatever work, dentist or whatever it is you do, you get to a point where you can sort of have more free time and you can get involved in the most important thing in life. And the most important thing in life is politics. I mean, it's not, believe it or not, it's the most important thing in life. I mean, at least half of everything that you do in life is governed by politics. And so it's very good that he's in that. And the world has been going in a few different wrong directions in the last few years. And in our opinion, at any rate, and we want to put an end to that. We want to put an end to, for a start, to waste. We want to put a stop to people, instead of using their God-given talents, instead of going and working in silly bureaucratic jobs, go and use your God-given talents and get out there and join the human race and do what you really can do. And so it's the last few years has not been good in the United States, and everybody agrees on that. And I was reading some article where they said 78% of the people in America are very pleased to think that America is now changing its direction. And so I agree with that. And Elon is part of that. A few years ago, he was quite the opposite. As recently as 6 or 7 years ago, he was, flaming Democrat, giving Donald Trump a very hard time and just not believing, in what he was saying. But it took Biden's presidency for Elon to change his mind and say, no. I came here from a little country and where we couldn't do anything to a country where we can do everything. Look what I've done, and now you want to stop me? You want to spoil it? No. So that's really what it's about. It's got nothing to do with being, nasty or having political ambitions or anything like that.
Right. What's your opinion about Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump is in my personal opinion, a very eccentric character. Very eccentric. Very outspoken, and also at the same time, very influential on social media. Do you think he's going to be the right president for the world?
Yes, definitely. It's simply because he's like me. He's in the same kind of line that I'm in. So when I heard that he was standing for presidency in 2015, I was quite interested because he was in exactly the same business that I was in. And so for once we were seeing someone who I could relate to. And I started being vocal about it. My sons were very upset about it. They didn't like it at all. They told me to shut up and not say anything to anybody and stop telling people and the press that I think Donald Trump is good. And I was embarrassing them, they told me. And they told me Trump is an evil bastard and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, he's not. And I had the advantage that in 1977, I went over to America with the South African Property Association, South African Property Owners Association, to do a tour of America. And we were entertained by Donald Trump in Manhattan. And I can remember quite clearly how we were about 40 people, how warm he was greeting us. He didn't know who I was, obviously, and how he made sure that everyone in the group was looked after. You know, anyone who South Africans are shy, and some people would sit on their own, and on the other hand, some others would corner Donald Trump during the day we saw him, and Donald Trump would go over to the ones who were alone and say, "Are you being looked after? And are you okay?" He was a very warm person. I liked that. I thought he was marvelous. In fact, he was so much better than we were. We'd all come from this country where we'd done pretty astounding things in this country. But compared to what he had done, we were like Mickey Mouse, if you know what I mean. So he was quite impressive. So when he stood for president, I thought that's pretty good. My children didn't like it.
Absolutely.
But now they do.
Absolutely, Mr. Musk. Absolutely. Your thoughts on Joe Biden? Joe Biden has made so much headlines. People say he's very old. People say he's not as ruthless as Donald Trump. People say he's not outspoken, etc. Do you think, he should have been president at the start, but also at the same time, should you think that he should have, your thoughts on Mr. Biden?
Well, he's what you would call a career opportunist politician. He never run a business, never done anything other than take a check from the government. So in that respect, he's somebody probably knows the ins and outs of government and how, Congress or Parliament works and so on. But the records show that quite clearly he used his position to enrich himself, and that's quite clear by now. And so from our point of view, as Elon has labeled him, he's a criminal.
Okay. I've also saw recently an interview. I hope you don't mind me saying. I saw recently when I was going through social media, I saw an interview of you talking about Nelson Mandela, Tommy Robinson, etc. Can I ask? So recently you were questioned about Tommy Robinson, the comparison compared to Nelson Mandela. Do you still stick to that, or have you changed your mind now? Or do you think it was the right thing to say, or are you still happy with the statement that you said?
Oh, no. I haven't changed my mind. No. What I said was that people like Tommy Robinson, imprisoned by the government because they are clearly political prisoner. He's clearly a political prisoner. Now, they can come to me with all sorts of stories, but I've got a brain, so my brain makes it quite clear to me. He's a political prisoner. Now, what I was saying was that many people who were imprisoned because of their opposition to the ruling government later on became the prime ministers of their country. And Nelson Mandela was one. Now, Mandela, of course, was sentenced to death for murder of children and women and so forth. People have forgotten that kind of thing. I mean, he placed bombs which killed innocent people. He was sentenced to death for that. And when I was in matric or finally at school at that time, and I was very interested, and I went to the synagogue in Pretoria where the trial was held, and I remember that when his sentence was, I went on my bicycle, by the way, when his sentence was commuted to life imprisonment, thank heavens, I don't believe in that death penalty stuff. People were crying, people were weeping in the street, because they wanted him hanged for what he had done. But later on, he changed and he became a great leader. So it's very important to realize that there are people throughout history that have been imprisoned, just one after the other. Almost half of them that become heads of countries have at some point or other been imprisoned. Ho Chi Minh, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, Nehru. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And, so in that respect, Tommy Robinson is potentially one of those people. I've listened to a lot of his talks. I'm quite happy with the things he says. What he has really done is he's brought attention to this gang rape, gang stuff, and that has to be looked at. It has to be looked at. England bringing all sorts of people into England is wonderful. To give all these people from other countries a chance to come to England is wonderful. A very nice thing. But you can't have England ruined because of that. They can't have England going down the drain in places because of that kind of thing. So it has to be looked at very, very, very well,
Thank you for your comment. My other question is, what new project you and your son or the Musk family, Elon, etc., what new project are you guys releasing that you've never told anybody before, or something that you're willing to share, with the world and the public, etc., a new idea that hasn't been disclosed at the moment?
Well, I told you about it just now. We've got £1 billion, not a million, billion pounds pledged for the Musk Institute already. We are looking to open the institute in Dubai, in a new building, which will be actually a building which people want to name the Musk skyscraper. And the institute will be in there, and we will be studying space-time travel and gravity, and particularly fusion, and all the spin-offs from that. So this is quite new. This is completely different to any science that's being worked on at the moment, and particularly space-time travel. And it has to be conquered. We have to find out how it's done before we can imagine a future. Otherwise, 100 years from now, we'll be in the same boat that we are now. We'll be doing the same thing that we're doing now 100 years from now. We have to do that. That is relatively fresh information that I'm giving you. We have to go on with the rockets. We have no choice, but because that's what we know at the moment. But at the same time, we want to attract the brightest minds in the world to a for-profit institute where these people come and they will not just be used. If they come up with information, inventions, spin-offs, they will be heavily rewarded for it in the form of millions of dollars, not a golden watch, not a watch and a certificate. You know what I mean?
100%.
And that's what we are trying to do. So the new institute is going to be the answer, will be tasked with the answer to all these things. And I can tell you now that we've put out feelers, and we get requests from these geeks, or whatever you want to call them, around the world. And the stuff that they come up with simply in their replies are mind-boggling. You can't even read the stuff that they send us because it's so complicated. That these geeks are sending us, and they know, and they want to tell us. They can't wait to tell us, and there's no place for them to do that. You see, so that's the idea. You bring these people together on a sort of funny side. You put in a Burger King that's free, and a McDonald's that's free. That's what geeks eat,
Absolutely, Mr. Absolutely.
And then you leave them to it.
Absolutely.
Do you understand?
I understand, Mr. Musk. Absolutely. And there's going to be millions of people going to watch this interview. Looking back on your life and career, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs or innovators who want to follow in your family footsteps? So, for instance, risk-taking, because there's many young people out there that don't necessarily have the drive, or how do I say, in other words, the confidence to take that risk. What advice would you give to young people?
They just have to find that drive. that if they believe in something, they have to go for it. They can't. I think one of your great people there, Richard Branson, he said, just do it. You know what I mean? Just do it. And they have to find that. It wasn't easy. It's not easy. I did quite a few things in my lifetime before my sons. And people said to me, well, how did you, I happened to buy an engineering practice when I was very young. I was in my early 20s. And they said, how did you do it? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I did it. My parents hopped their house and stuff like that. And they said, but what if you'd lost? What if it didn't work? They'd have lost their home. I said, I don't know. What can you do? I just took a chance. You have to try. And but if you have something that you believe in, it's very important that you believe in, that you're working in something that you like. And it's very important that you eat and breathe it, and that you wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you think of. And and then you will make a success of it. And I'm not alone. I mean, there are many, many people that I know who've made a great success out of being a plumber.
Absolutely, Mr. Musk.
Never mind,
absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Musk.
I mean, I had a friend who was not very bright. I mean, I shouldn't say that. He was nice. He's a nice chap. I wouldn't call him a genius. But anyway, he started a plumbing business, and he was a plumber. And I thought, well, how's he going to do? Then he started a countrywide plumbing service. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Called some catchy name,
Absolutely.
And so on,
Absolutely.
And so you just have to believe in yourself. And it's not easy to do that. As Elon has said, some of the businesses that he's done, it's like jumping off a cliff while you're chewing broken glass.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've spoken
so it's not simple.
Sorry, after you, Mr. Musk. Sorry, I cut you out. Sorry, but after you.
No, it's not simple. Carry on.
You've spoken about your engineering background. Do you think this technical expertise influenced the way that you approach business and problem solving in your own ventures?
Just explain that again.
Sorry. So you've spoken about your engineering background.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think this technical expertise influenced the way that you approach business and problem solving in your own ventures?
Well, yes. I mean, first of all, technical interest as a child at school leads you into something like science and engineering. But it doesn't mean that that's the be-all and end-all. I have friends who, for example, took great interest in English and writing and law and stuff like that. And their interest took them just as far as mine did in a technical world, into their world, And so it doesn't really matter what it is that your particular forte is. Music, for example. If I could play a guitar, I would give up everything I'm doing, and I'd go and stand in a tube station and play in a corner with a hat in front of me. I'd never come out. If I could do it. I can't do it.
Absolutely. And just last question to you, sir. I just want to kind of clear up the rumor. Breaking news: the Musk family, according to the media, they said that they've offered money to buy Liverpool football team. Is that true?
I can't comment on that because it's too much of an issue, But what I would say is, I can't say either way. First of all, secondly, it's something that anybody with half a brain would want to do if they could. So, what else can I say?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Musk. Absolutely. And my last question to you, sir. Your family's from South Africa, but you've also got roots in the UK. What do you hope South Africa in the future benefits from? How do I say, in other words, where do you see South Africa being in the next 5 years?
Well, we're trying here. South Africa's at the best place that it's ever been right now. There's absolutely no racism in this country. Nothing. If anybody can, I'll give you £1,000 if you can show me some. You follow me? You won't be able to get £1,000 from me. So we're at the best place that we've been for a long time. At the same time, we have a government that insists on being totally black. And because, that's their sort of thing for the moment. And I have a meeting on the 23rd with the president of our country. And I've said to them that we must not do that. We must start including all sorts of people, not on the basis of anything but what they're good at. And it is heading that way, so that we will start to improve some of our government institutions, which have fallen by the wayside of it because of people being put into positions for which they're totally not qualified.
Absolutely. And the last question.
South Africa is well and good.
Absolutely, Mr. Musk. And my last question. You clearly are a very educated person. You speak very well. At the same time, I can see where Elon gets his intelligence from. Does he get it from you, or does he get it from his mother?
Oh, no, from both of us.
Brilliant. Well, Mr. Musk, I really want to say thank you so much for your time today. It was a complete honor to speak to you, and really learning. And I'm sure the young people out there, entrepreneurs and innovators, will definitely take your great advice. So thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it once again.
Can I just add one thing?
Go for it, please.
May I add one thing?
Please, Mr. Musk.
We have a foundation called the Musk Foundation.
Brilliant.
And if anyone, like you've described, has something that's really worthwhile, that they are very passionate about, and they feel they would like to have funding for, or if they feel they would like to have it looked at, the Musk Foundation is available. At the present time, we have about £8 billion available for people, for anyone who would like to apply. And they should just go to the Musk Foundation website, and they will see all the application forms there.
Can't wait. I'll definitely put that out. Thank you so much, Mr. Musk. And I really appreciate your time once again. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day. And whenever you're in London,